Hey, Dragon Slayers. It's been about an hour since my last meal. Blood sugar's 132. I've got my last meal was basically I think it was pork schnitzel, a chicken shawarma. I had one, like, it's like a big Oreo cookie type thing, and a small side salad. So, yeah, I'm traveling right now. Sorry, guys, if the acoustics are weird or it's a little too echoey. So, today's video is all about fasting myths, part one. There's a lot of them, so I'm going to have to break this up into at least two videos to cover all the big ones. So, exercise helps greatly with fat adaptation. Your glycogen, which is the storage form of glucose in your muscles and liver that your body can burn as fuel when necessary, is depleted during sleep and fasting. And you will be depleted even further during training, which can further increase insulin sensitivity. This means that a meal immediately following your workout will be stored most efficiently, mostly as glycogen for muscle stores, or burned as energy immediately to help with the recovery process, with minimal amounts stored as fat. Compare this to a regular day of no intermittent fasting. The overeaten carbs from foods consumed will see full glycogen stores and thus be more likely stored as fat. So, some of the fasting myths, there are myths about so many things. All right, so there's myths about breakfast is the most important meal of the day. We have all been told to eat breakfast. Unfortunately, this is terrible advice. So, when you first wake up in the morning, your insulin level is quite low, and most people are just starting to enter the fasted state. 12 hours after eating the last meal of the previous day, the worst thing you could do is eat a ton of food, spiking insulin and glucose, and immediately shifting or shutting off fat burning. A much better choice would be to push out the first meal of your day at least a few hours, during which you can fully enter a fasted state and burn some stored body fat. The very worst would be to eat a high carbohydrate breakfast, spiking insulin and glucose as high as possible, in addition to reducing fat burning for as many as 12 hours. This will drive as many calories as possible into fat stores, as well as providing further reinforcement of the burning of glucose rather than fat. Also, high spikes of insulin and glucose always lead to large drops in glucose a few hours later, which triggers hunger. If you want to have hypoglycemia, which is the medical term for low blood sugar, and ravenous hunger, just eat a breakfast of pure carbohydrates and then wait 2 or 3 hours and see how you feel. Interestingly, many properly fat adapted people aren't very hungry in the morning and have no problem skipping breakfast. This is appropriate as throughout history humans have always been hunter-gatherers, and rather than eating a large breakfast first thing in the morning, we would hunt and gather throughout the day and have our larger meal later in the day. So, Dr. Naiman also highly recommends mimicking that pattern by skipping breakfast and eating most of your calories later in the day, also known as reverse taper of calories, with none in the morning and most in the evening. Some individualization is present here. However, some people do find that they have higher satiety and function better by eating breakfast and skipping early and eating earlier in the day. This is, of course, fine if that works for you. But for many, skipping breakfast is both the easiest and most convenient way to intermittent fast. Another myth out there is that eating small, frequent meals, there's plenty of worthless advice when it comes to diet, exercise, especially fasting. We've been told to eat frequently to keep your metabolism high and going, and that you don't want your body to enter starvation mode. This is all the exact opposite of the truth. In order to burn fat, you want to spend more time in the fasted state and get very efficient at living on stored body fat rather than caloric intake from constant eating. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Next video, we're going to go part 2 and just explore some more of these fasting myths and dispel them. So don't forget to like and subscribe. You can support me on Patreon. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.